Jason Statham, though no longer in the ring himself, was still very much a part of the boxing world. He wasn't chasing the spotlight or the roar of the crowd anymore. His arena now was a small, slightly worn-down boxing gym on the outskirts of town. The air inside always smelled faintly of sweat, leather, and the lingering scent of old liniment. He was a calm presence amidst the chaos of flailing arms and heavy bags. Years of fighting had etched lines around his eyes, but they were kind lines, the eyes of a man who had seen a lot but still believed in the good in people, or at least in their potential. These days, Jason poured his heart and soul into training young fighters. He wasn't just teaching them how to throw a punch or dodge a blow. He was teaching them discipline, respect, and the importance of knowing when to walk away, that he saw boxing not just as a sport, but as a way to build character. He had a knack for spotting raw talent, for seeing the spark in a kid's eyes that said, "I want this." And he knew how to nurture that spark, how to guide these young hopefuls towards their full potential, whether that meant a championship belt or simply becoming a better version of themselves. He wasn't interested in creating just skilled fighters. He wanted to create good people that he believed boxing could do, that he'd seen it happen, that he'd lived it, and he was ready to pass that knowledge on. But the boxing world wasn't all about quiet gyms and respectful training, that a storm was brewing on the horizon. A young force of nature named Titan Thorne. Titan was everything Jason wasn't. Loud, brash, and overflowing with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. He was the current boxing champion, a rising star who had taken the world by storm with his incredible power and speed. Titan was a showman, that he knew how to work the crowd, how to get under his opponent's skin, and how to make headlines. But his methods were often questionable, that he was notorious for his trash talk, his disrespectful behavior towards other fighters, and his general lack of humility. He saw himself as the king of the ring, and he wasn't afraid to let everyone know it. His fights were always a spectacle. People tuned in not just to see his incredible boxing skills, but also to see what outrageous thing he would say or do next. He reveled in the attention, both positive and negative. He believed that any publicity was good publicity. While Jason preached discipline and respect, Titan seemed to thrive on chaos and controversy. He represented a new breed of boxer, one who valued entertainment over sportsmanship. He was a walking, talking highlight reel, a force to be reckoned with, and a stark contrast to the values Jason Statham held dear. Their paths were destined to cross, and when they did, sparks would fly. Within the walls of Jason's humble gym, a young boxer named Billy, nicknamed Kid Quick for his lightning-fast reflexes, was diligently honing his skills. Billy was one of Jason's most promising students, a natural athlete with a burning desire to succeed. He soaked up Jason's wisdom like a sponge, eager to learn everything he could about the sweet science. Like many young boxers, Billy had initially idolized Titan Thorne. He was captivated by Titan's raw power and flashy style. He'd watch Titan's fights, mesmerized, dreaming of one day reaching the same heights. He even tried to imitate some of Titan's moves in the gym, much to Jason's subtle disapproval. However, as Billy spent more time training with Jason and witnessed Titan's increasingly arrogant behavior outside the ring, cracks began to appear in his admiration. He started to see the difference between confidence and arrogance, between showmanship and disrespect. He noticed the way Titan treated his opponents, the way he dismissed their hard work and dedication. Billy began to question whether that was the kind of boxer he wanted to be. He saw the respect Jason commanded, not through fear or intimidation, but through genuine kindness and guidance. He started to understand that true strength wasn't just about physical power. It was about character, integrity, and treating others with respect. The seed of doubt had been planted, and Billy was beginning to realize that his initial idol might not be the role model he thought he was. The clash between values came to a head one sweltering afternoon. Titan, looking for some sparring practice and a chance to further build his image, dropped by Jason's gym uninvited and unannounced. He surveyed the scene with a condescending smirk, his eyes landing on Billy, who was diligently working the speed bag. Titan called Billy into the ring, ostensibly for a friendly sparring session. Billy, initially excited and nervous, eagerly accepted the opportunity to test his skills against the champion. However, It quickly became clear that Titan had no intention of making it a fair fight. Titan toyed with Billy, showcasing his superior speed and power. He landed several hard shots, more than necessary for a simple sparring session. But the physical blows were nothing compared to the verbal ones. Between punches, Titan began to mock Billy relentlessly, belittling his skills and dismissing his dreams of becoming champion. "Kid quick," Titan sneered, mimicking Billy's footwork. "More like kid slow. You'll never make in the real world, kid, that you're just wasting your time." He continued to taunt Billy, questioning his dedication and talent, all while a small crowd of onlookers gathered, their faces etched with discomfort. Jason watched from the sidelines, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with a controlled fury. He knew this wasn't just sparring. It was bullying, pure and simple. The humiliation was deliberate, and it cut deep the moment Titan stepped out of the ring. Basking in the uncomfortable silence he had created, Jason was at Billy's side. Billy stood there, shoulders slumped, his face flushed with shame and anger. Jason could see the hurt in his eyes, the flicker of doubt threatening to extinguish his passion. Jason put a hand on Billy's shoulder, a gesture of reassurance and support. "Come on, Billy," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Let's get you cleaned up." He ignored Titan's smug grin as he led Billy away from the gawking crowd and towards the locker room. Inside, Jason handed Billy a towel and a bottle of water. He didn't immediately offer words of comfort or anger. He simply allowed Billy to process the humiliation. After a few moments, when Billy had regained some composure, Jason spoke. "Listen, Billy," he said, making eye contact. "Titan's got a lot of flash, a lot of talk, but that doesn't make him a better fighter, and it certainly doesn't make him a better person. That don't let his words get to you. He's trying to get inside your head to break you down." "But he's right, Jason," Billy mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not good enough." Jason shook his head. "That's not true, Billy. That you've got talent. You've got heart. That Titan's just trying to rattle you. The best way to silence him is to prove him wrong. Go back to training. Focus on your technique, your strength, your speed. Let your boxing do the talking." Titan, however, wasn't finished. He seemed to relish the drama he had created and wasn't content with simply humiliating Billy. He wanted more, but he wanted to provoke Jason, to draw him out, to prove that he was still the dominant force in the boxing world. In the days that followed, Titan ramped up his taunts, using social media and interviews to target Jason directly. He questioned Jason's legacy, suggesting that he had gone soft since retiring, that he was living in the past and was afraid to face a real challenge. Statham was a good fighter in his day, Titan declared in one particularly inflammatory interview. But his day is long gone. He's just a washed-up has-been, hiding behind these kids. He wouldn't last around with me. He went on to belittle Jason's achievements, claiming that the competition was weaker in Jason's era and that Jason was only famous because of luck. Finally, he issued a direct challenge. "Statham, if you've still got any fight left in you, step into the ring with me. Let's see if you're as tough as you used to be. Let's see if you can still handle the pressure. Or are you just going to hide in your little gym, playing babysitter to these wannabes?" He punctuated his challenge with a mocking laugh, knowing that he was pushing Jason's buttons, daring him to respond. The boxing world held its breath, waiting to see if Jason would take the bait. Jason found himself caught in a difficult position. Part of him wanted to ignore Titan's childish antics, to dismiss him as a loudmouth seeking attention. He had long since left the world of competitive boxing behind, content with his role as a trainer and mentor. He valued the peace and quiet he had found, away from the spotlight. However, another part of him, the part that still remembered the thrill of the fight, the part that still felt a responsibility to uphold the values of respect and sportsmanship, was deeply troubled by Titan's behavior. He knew that Titan's words were not just directed at him. They were directed at everything Jason stood for, everything he tried to instill in his young fighters. That he wrestled with the decision that he didn't want to fight, that he knew the risks involved, both physical and otherwise. He was older now, slower, perhaps not as sharp as he once was. But he also felt a growing sense of obligation that he couldn't stand by and let Titan continue to bully and disrespect others without consequence. He felt a particular responsibility to Billy. He knew that Billy was hurting, that Titan's words had shaken his confidence. Jason felt that he needed to defend Billy's honor, to show him that standing up to bullies was the right thing to do. He also felt a responsibility to teach Titan a lesson, to show him that true strength wasn't about arrogance and trash talk, but about humility and respect. The internal conflict raged within him, pulling him in opposite directions. Seeing Jason's internal struggle, Billy felt a surge of guilt that he knew that. Titan's challenge was, in a way, his fault if Titan hadn't come to the gym that day. If he hadn't humiliated him, Jason wouldn't be in this predicament. One evening, after a grueling training session, Billy approached Jason, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Jason," he began hesitantly, "you have to fight him." Jason looked at Billy, surprised. "Billy, I don't want you to think." Billy interrupted him. "I know, Jason, that I know you don't want to fight. But you have to it's the only way to shut him up. It's the only way he'll ever learn." "It's not that simple, Billy," Jason replied, sighing. "This isn't just about shutting him up, it's about me, Jason," Billy said, his voice rising with emotion. "He took something from me that day. He took my confidence, my belief in myself. And the only way I can get it back is if you beat him, if you show him that he's not invincible." Billy continued, his voice pleading. "Please, Jason, D owe it for me, D owe it for the GYM, D owe it for everyone who's ever been bullied or disrespected. You're the only one who can stop him." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of Billy's hopes and dreams. Jason looked into Billy's earnest eyes and knew he couldn't refuse. After a long night of contemplation, Jason made his decision. He would fight Titan Thorn, but not for the reasons Titan expected. He wouldn't do it for fame, for glory, or to prove anything to himself. He would do it for Billy, for the gym, and for the values he held dear. The next morning, Jason publicly announced his acceptance of Titan's challenge. News sent shockwaves through the boxing world. But Jason's acceptance came with conditions. "I will fight Titan Thorn," Jason stated in a press conference, his voice calm and resolute, but not as a spectacle. "This fight will be a charity match. All proceeds, every single penny, will go directly to Billy's youth boxing gym. This gym provides a safe haven for kids, a place where they can learn discipline, respect, and the value of hard work. It's a place that deserves to thrive." He continued, "Furthermore, I want a clause in the contract stating that Titan Thorn will personally apologize to Billy after the fight, regardless of the outcome. This isn't just about punches and knockouts. It's about setting an example, that it's about teaching young people that words have consequences and that respect is earned, not demanded." Jason's conditions transformed the narrative. It was no longer just about a clash of egos. It was about something bigger, something more meaningful. He had taken Titan's attempt to humiliate him and turned it into an opportunity to do good. The ball was now in Titan's court. The acceptance of Jason's conditions created a buzz, and Titan, backed into a corner by public opinion, grudgingly agreed. The fight was on. But now, the real work began. The next few weeks were a blur of intense training. Jason knew he couldn't rely on brute strength or youthful exuberance, that he was older now, and he had to be smarter, more strategic. His training focused on honing his technique, sharpening his reflexes, and developing a game plan that would exploit Titan's weaknesses. That we see Jason hitting the heavy bag with calculated precision, each punch deliberate and powerful. Jump rope, his movements fluid and efficient. Building endurance and footwork, sparring with younger fighters, testing his skills and refining his timing. The gym becomes a sanctuary, a place where he can push himself to his limits, both physically and mentally. That he spent hours studying footage of Titan's fights, analyzing his strengths and weaknesses, looking for patterns and tendencies. That he knew he couldn't go toe-to-toe with Titan in a slugfest. He had to outsmart him, outmaneuver him, and use his experience to his advantage. The montage showcases Jason's dedication and discipline, that he pushed his body to its breaking point, enduring grueling workouts and sacrificing comfort for the sake of preparation. We see him wincing in pain, sweating profusely, but never giving up. His eyes are focused, determined, reflecting the fire that still burns within him. He wasn't just training to fight, he was training to win. While Jason was diligently preparing, Titan continued to underestimate him. He saw Jason's training as a desperate attempt by an old man to recapture his glory days, a futile effort doomed to failure, but he was supremely confident that his youth, power, and natural talent would easily overwhelm the older fighter. He dismissed Jason's focus on strategy and technique as a sign of weakness. He's trying to think his way to victory, Titan scoffed in an interview. But boxing isn't about thinking, it's about hitting, and I'm going to hit him so hard he'll forget his own name. He spent more time promoting the fight and trash-talking Jason than actually training, that he believed that his natural abilities were enough to secure the win, that he saw Jason as a relic of the past, a faded star who was no match for the modern champion. He posted videos on social media, mocking Jason's age and physical condition, showing off his own physique and power. He bragged about how quickly he would knock Jason out, predicting a first-round victory. Titan's overconfidence was blinding him to the reality of the situation. He failed to recognize Jason's experience, his mental toughness, and his unwavering determination. He saw only an old man, not a seasoned warrior. This underestimation would prove to be his downfall. He was so focused on the image he was projecting that he neglected the hard work necessary to back it up. The weigh-in was a spectacle. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air crackling with anticipation. The crowd was a mix of supporters for both fighters, eager to witness the final confrontation before the main event. Titan, as expected, seized the opportunity to further antagonize Jason, but he strutted onto the stage, flexing his muscles and basking in the cheers of his fans. He made a show of weighing in, exaggerating his movements and glaring at Jason across the stage. When Jason stepped onto the scale, the crowd erupted. He looked leaner and more focused than they had anticipated. He didn't engage in any theatrics, simply weighed in and stepped off the scale with a quiet nod. Then came the face-off. Titan stepped close to Jason, invading his personal space, his eyes filled with contempt. "You look tired, old man," he sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Are you sure you're ready for this? You look like you're about to fall asleep." He continued his barrage of insults, questioning Jason's abilities and predicting a swift and brutal victory. He tried to intimidate Jason, to break his composure, to get him to lose his cool. But Jason remained unfazed. He met Titan's gaze without flinching, his expression calm and collected. He didn't respond to Titan's taunts, didn't engage in the trash talk. He simply stood there, a silent force of resolve. His calmness was unnerving, a stark contrast to Titan's frantic energy. It was clear that Jason wasn't going to be rattled. His focus was absolute, his mind set on the task ahead. The bell rang, and the crowd roared. Titan came out like a hurricane, a whirlwind of fists and fury. He was determined to end the fight quickly, to prove his dominance and silence any doubters. He unleashed a barrage of power punches, each one aimed at Jason's head, each one carrying the force of a sledgehammer. Jason, however, didn't panic. That he used his experience and footwork to evade the worst of the blows. He slipped punches, weaved underhooks, and danced around Titan's attacks. He absorbed some of the shots, gritting his teeth and using his arms to protect his head and body. This round wasn't about offense for Jason. It was about survival and observation. That he was studying Titan's style, his patterns, his tells. That he was analyzing his speed, his power, and his stamina. That he was looking for weaknesses, for openings, for any advantage he could exploit. The crowd gasped as Titan landed a few solid punches, sending sweat flying from Jason's head. That it looked like Titan might end the fight early, as he had predicted. But Jason weathered the storm, his resilience surprising many. To be why the end of the round, Jason had managed to avoid any serious damage. He had survived Titan's initial onslaught and had gathered valuable information about his opponent. He knew this was going to be a long and difficult fight, but he was prepared to play the long game. The first round was Titan's, but the fight was far from over. The second round saw a shift in momentum. Jason, having weathered Titan's initial storm, began to implement his strategy. That he used his footwork to control the pace of the fight, moving in and out of range, keeping Titan off balance. That he started to use feints, subtle movements designed to mislead Titan and create openings. That he flicked his jab, testing Titan's reflexes, probing his defenses that he wasn't throwing for power, but for precision, for control, that he landed a few clean jabs, snapping Titan's head back and drawing a murmur from the crowd. They weren't devastating punches, but they were effective in disrupting Titan's rhythm and frustrating his attempts to land a knockout blow. Titan, used to dominating his opponents with brute force, began to grow impatient. He couldn't understand why he wasn't able to land his power punches. He started to chase Jason around the ring, swinging wildly and missing more often than not. Jason, meanwhile, remained calm and focused, sticking to his game plan that he continued to use his footwork and feints to control the distance, picking his spots and landing his jab with increasing accuracy. He was slowly but surely taking control of the fight, frustrating Titan and wearing him down. By the end of the round, Titan was visibly frustrated, his face flushed with anger. Jason had successfully neutralized his power and had started to dictate the terms of the fight. The crowd could sense the shift in momentum, the growing belief that Jason might actually pull off the upset. Round 3 saw Titan's frustration boil over that he abandoned his game plan. Succumbing to his anger and desperation, he started to telegraph his punches, throwing wild haymakers that were easily avoided. He became reckless, leaving himself open and vulnerable. Jason, sensing the shift in Titan's demeanor, capitalized on his mistakes, that he used his superior timing and precision to land a series of well-placed counterpunches. He slipped inside Titan's wild swings and landed crisp jabs to the face, followed by sharp hooks to the body. The crowd gasped as Jason's punches landed with increasing frequency and force. They could see Titan's confidence eroding with each blow. He was no longer the dominant force he had been in the first round. He was becoming hesitant, unsure, and increasingly desperate. Jason, on the other hand, was growing in confidence that he was executing his game plan flawlessly, exploiting Titan's weaknesses and controlling the pace of the fight. He was landing his punches with pinpoint accuracy, punishing Titan for his recklessness. By the end of the round, Titan was breathing heavily, his face bruised and swollen. He stumbled back to his corner, looking dazed and confused. Jason, in contrast, looked fresh and energized, his eyes filled with determination. The momentum had clearly shifted, and the crowd was now firmly behind Jason. Sensing that an upset was within reach, Titan's arrogance was crumbling before their eyes. Desperation began to set in for Titan in round 4, that he realized that his initial plan had failed, that Jason was not the washed-up fighter he had expected. He needed to change something, anything, to regain control of the fight. He started to resort to dirty tactics. He threw a few low blows, narrowly avoiding the referee's attention. He began to use his elbows more aggressively, trying to create space and disrupt Jason's rhythm. He even tried to goad Jason with insults during the clinches, whispering taunts and trying to get under his skin. "You're embarrassing yourself, old man," Titan hissed, his breath hot on Jason's ear. "Why don't you just quit? Save yourself the pain." Jason, however, refused to be drawn into Titan's games. He remained focused on his strategy, ignoring the insults and the cheap shots. He knew that Titan was desperate, that he was trying to provoke him into making a mistake. The referee, however, was starting to notice Titan's increasingly unsportsmanlike behavior. He issued a stern warning to Titan, telling him to keep the fight clean and to refrain from using any illegal tactics. "I'm watching you, Thorne," the referee said, his voice firm and authoritative. "One more infraction, and I'll deduct a point." Titan, momentarily subdued by the warning, backed off slightly. But the desperation was still evident in his eyes, that he knew he was losing the fight, and he was willing to do anything to turn the tide. The crowd booed Titan's dirty tactics, clearly siding with Jason. In round 5, Jason demonstrated remarkable composure. Refusing to let Titan's antics distract him, he remained calm and collected, sticking to his game plan and exploiting Titan's increasingly erratic behavior. He continued to pick apart Titan's defense with precise punches, targeting the openings he had identified earlier in the fight. He landed crisp jabs to the face, followed by sharp hooks to the body, each punch taking its toll on Titan's stamina and resolve. Titan, now visibly exhausted and demoralized, struggled to mount any effective offense. His punches were slow and telegraphed, easily avoided by Jason's superior footwork and head movement. He was a shadow of the confident and arrogant champion he had been at the start of the fight. Jason, in contrast, was growing stronger with each passing round. He was finding his rhythm, his timing, and his range. He was dictating the pace of the fight, controlling the distance, and landing his punches with increasing accuracy and power. The crowd roared its approval, sensing that the end was near. They chanted Jason's name, their voices filled with excitement and anticipation. They had witnessed a remarkable turnaround, a stunning display of skill, determination, and resilience by the end of the round. Titan was on the verge of collapse. He stumbled back to his corner, his face a mask of pain and exhaustion. Jason, however, looked fresh and focused, his eyes locked on his opponent, ready to deliver the final blow. The atmosphere in the arena was electric. The bell rang for round 6, and Titan, fueled by sheer desperation, stumbled out of his corner. He knew he needed a knockout to win, and he was willing to risk everything to get it. He charged at Jason, throwing a wild haymaker, a desperate attempt to land a fight-ending blow. But Jason was ready. He saw the opening, the slight hesitation in Titan's movement, the telltale sign of fatigue, that he ducked under Titan's wild swing, avoiding the punch by inches. As Titan stumbled forward, off balance, Jason unleashed his knockout punch. It was a perfectly timed and powerful right hand, a punch he had been setting up for the entire fight. The punch landed flush on Titan's jaw, connecting with devastating force. That Titan's eyes glazed over, his body went limp, and he crashed to the canvas like a felled tree. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar. The referee rushed in, waving his arms to signal the end of the fight. That he began the count, but it was clear that Titan was in no condition to continue. The fight was over. Jason Statham had done it. He had defied the odds, overcome the challenges, and knocked out the arrogant champion. He stood over his fallen opponent, his expression a mixture of relief and satisfaction. He had proven that experience, discipline, and heart could triumph over youth, power, and arrogance. The arena exploded with cheers. The knockout will blow your mind. In the aftermath of the fight, a profound transformation occurred in Titan Thorne. The knockout had not only taken away his championship belt, but had also stripped away his arrogance and replaced it with humility. Yes, he sat in his corner, recovering from the knockout. He watched Jason being interviewed in the ring. He listened to Jason's words about respect, discipline, and the importance of giving back to the community. That he realized that he had been wrong, that he had valued the wrong things. After receiving medical attention, Titan, with a newfound sense of humility, approached Jason in the center of the ring. He extended his hand to Jason, a gesture of respect and reconciliation. "You were right, Statham," Titan said, his voice sincere. "I was wrong. You taught me a lesson tonight, that you're a great fighter and an even better man." Then, fulfilling the condition of the fight, Titan turned to Billy, who was standing near the ropes, his eyes filled with admiration for Jason. "Billy," Titan said, his voice filled with remorse, "I'm sorry for what I said to you, that I was out of line, that you've got talent. Kid, don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He shook Billy's hand firmly, a gesture of genuine apology. The crowd cheered, applauding Titan's transformation. He had finally learned the value of humility and respect. He had finally understood that true strength wasn't about arrogance and trash talk, but about character and integrity. The night culminated in a powerful symbol of change and the passing of the torch. As the celebrations continued, Jason, standing in the center of the ring, called Billy over. He placed his arm around Billy's shoulders and raised his hand high in the air. "This victory isn't just for me," Jason announced, his voice filled with emotion. "It's for Billy, for this gym, and for everyone who believes in the power of hard work, discipline, and respect. Billy is the future of boxing, and I'm proud to pass the torch to him." The crowd roared its approval, recognizing the significance of the moment. Jason wasn't just celebrating his own victory. He was celebrating the potential of the next generation. He was showing that true success wasn't just about individual achievement, but about inspiring and empowering others in the days that followed. The charity received a massive donation, far exceeding anyone's expectations. The youth boxing gym was transformed, renovated, and equipped with state-of-the-art facilities. It became a beacon of hope for the community, a place where young people could learn not only boxing skills, but also life skills, values, and principles. Jason returned to his quiet life, content with his role as a trainer and mentor. He had proven that age was just a number, that experience was invaluable, and that standing up for what you believe in was always the right thing to do. He had taught Titan a valuable lesson, inspired Billy to pursue his dreams, and left a lasting legacy in the boxing world. The story became a testament to the power of humility, respect, and the transformative potential of the sport.